The robots are coming has been your ex-banner since you began. Is this a wake-up call of techno-optimism or a subtle warning to your viewers?
Both. So my idea behind the robots are coming was, what's the most neutral way that I can create awareness about the inevitable? And it's like, the robots are coming. Okay, great. And what's interesting about that whole thing is like, okay, some people will view it as, yes, the robots are coming, let's go. And some people are like, oh God, I'm kind of scared. Am I going to be put out of a job,
Yeah,
et cetera, et cetera. I should almost change it to the robots are here, honestly, because it's like we're at the point now where it's become very obvious that it's an unstoppable train. The economics of robotics, autonomous systems are far too great for them to not be adopted. The only limiting factor has been the technology. Have we had the technology to have a truly useful autonomous robot, either on wheels or in a humanoid factor, whatever you want, embodied AI, right? Whatever you want to call it. The limiting factor has been the brain. The brain was the biggest one. The being able to perceive the real world in a way that you can do useful tasks. And that has changed with the car. We can see it with Tesla's self-driving suite. And now that it's changed with the car, by default, it means that it has also changed for the embodied humanoid, whatever version that we'll see. Because the key problem again was manipulating real world space. When you can do that with a brain, with an artificial brain that can mimic tasks that a human would do, the question becomes, okay, what are the systems that we need to actually make the movements? And that just becomes an actuator question. It's like, okay, so now that we know that the brain can figure out what to do, if it had the outputs, it's actuators, right? And then so actuators become just an engineering problem, right? There's no, I mean, there's going to need to be breakthroughs. There's going to need to be like some pretty significant steps forward. It's not out of the realm of possibility that somebody can design an incredibly efficient actuator. I bet you Tesla's going to have the best one. You know, Tesla's probably vertically integrating, which I believe they openly said they're going to vertically integrate their actuator manufacturing, their hand manufacturing, because these are the things that will truly separate them from everybody else, which will help them execute against that. And then the question after that becomes, okay, so now that you've got that figured out, what's the next step? It's like, okay, now we need great battery density so that we can do those tasks for as long as possible before we have to charge, because anytime you have downtime, that is time away from doing the task, right? So if you're doing 1 hour of work and charging for 2 hours, the math can still work, but it's not nearly as good as doing the work for 4 hours and charging for half an hour, or doing the work for 6 hours and charging for half an hour, or doing the work for 16 hours or charging for an hour. You know, the equation will change as battery technology gets better and better. So my initial math that I did on the sort of like, what is the effective dollars per hour that you would pay for, say, the first run of the humanoid robots that would come out of, let's say, Tesla's factory at 1 million units run rate, and it charges for an hour for every 4 hours of work, let's say, and it can work, I believe the math I did was about at 80% of the speed of a regular human. The effective hourly rate is like $3.40 per hour, which is better than the average rate out of China. So it's like, okay, so once you have that, and you're not limited by the creation of humans, which is like people have to get busy and make humans, you just have a factory to make robots. At that point, labor breaks. The labor equation breaks. And so the follow-on question becomes, okay, if a robot can do anything we can, you know, sometime in the future, which is definitely coming, we just don't know exactly when, but as it continues to come, what do we do, right? That's the question. That becomes
that's a massive question.
too.
Then, yeah.
Gigantic.
I could probably help with that, because I've been spending my entire life trying to figure out what to do in my life, and just having time.
What do you think will happen there? Like, I would love to hear your philosophy around that.
Yeah, well, I think people are going to have a real crisis of meaning, and I mean, I've accidentally sort of ended up in that situation in my life because I've been a musician my whole life, so that's given me time to sort of fill. And it turns out when you do have time and you think you might just want to relax all day, you don't want to. You just want to fill your time doing something meaningful. So we always found, me and my wife, we've just always had a sort of different sort of career life, if you like, just from being musicians. And then so we find other things to do. And I think when COVID hit, I think this was the moment for me when I realized how severe it is when you've had your job taken from you, because all of our weddings got cancelled. You know, we just couldn't work. We couldn't do anything. And I spent 2 years just sort of procrastinating, wondering, well, what would I want to do if I had the opportunity to do anything in the world? And, let's say money wasn't an object, which it is. It would be fantastic to perhaps do a YouTube channel like this and just like delve into it. But I think that's it. People are going to need to discover what they really want to do with life, not just how to get money and survive. Like, what would you really want to do? Because, in this scenario in the future with robots, we'd assume that we've got a more of an age of abundance, perhaps. Maybe there's universal basic income. Finding meaning, I think, in the future is going to be, it really will be a very difficult challenge for a lot of people. But I guess the benefit is if you are taken care of, if you have enough money to survive, you've got all your food and everything you need, then it's great for people who are creative, perhaps myself and you, or lots of other people who are self-employed or just choose their own path. But it's clear that there's lots of people who are just more than happy, going to work every day, being told what to do, and then they go home and then that's their life. And they're more than happy doing that. For me, it's been nothing but a rush to run away from that. But for other people, it's just fine. So it is a bit of a concern, isn't it? You're wondering what this scenario would be with humanoid robots.
I think the common theme, though, from all the people that I've talked to that are sort of in this sort of very blessed situation that both you and I are in, which is like we're able to, even with great difficulty sometimes, we're able to pursue what we want to do in some ways. I think the common thread I've found is that, well, there was a period of time, the keyword time, where people were able to sit down and be like, okay, what should I do? What am I supposed to do? Like, what should I do this? Should I take the risk or not take the risk? But it was time. And that's one thing that very few people have is time. Because for the second they wake up, they got to deal with a chaotic household. Sometimes they don't want to be in that household, right? So because of whatever variables, the chaotic household, then they got to go to a job that they don't want to really be at because they have to have to pay the bills. Then they come home to that same chaotic household. And by the time they have an hour or two to self-reflect, their brain is so fried and they're so like beat down by life that it's like, okay, what should I do? And so I think what this robotics AI revolution is going to bring forth, it's going to start slow, and it will get, I think, more and more of the population will get hit by this, is that people's time will open up, right? Either through choice or through disruption. The one that has me really afraid is that if people get more time because they were disrupted by the technology and they're not able to fill their time up with something, we will get chaos and we will get violence. For sure, like 1,000, and this has happened 1,000,000 times over, in the course of human history. Is if you put people in a situation, especially at a large scale, where they feel like they cannot exit despair, we're going to have a gigantic problem on our hands. And so the question becomes, in this new world, what are governments doing and what are corporations doing to ensure that doesn't become the case, right? And that's where my nervousness comes in, because it's like the forcing function for this technology to sort of accumulate around a few players is really, really strong. The reason why is only a few players have the capital to hoard the autonomous resources. Like who has an ability to buy 1,000,000 robots more? Is it me, or is it Coca-Cola? Or is it Tesla? Or is it blah, right? And if somebody is going to own a giant majority of the means of production, what does that mean for the rest of us? What does that mean, right? These are the questions that really stress me out, to be completely honest. Now, I think what's kind of encouraging in a weird way, and I think some people will disagree with me here, but we do have a core group of very talented engineers at the top of this game. Your Elon Musks, your Mark Andreessens, your Mark Zuckerbergs, your Jeff Bezos, whatever you want to think of them. Like there's a lot not to like about a lot of those people, I'm sure. But at least we're getting people that know where this is going, actually talking with and actively being part of government discussions. This has to happen. Now, the population needs to hold these people accountable. The broader citizenry has to be like, yo, Elon, yo, Trump, yo, Jeff, yo, whatever. If you can't guarantee to us that this next revolution in technology will make our lives better, you will have hell to pay. And I'm telling you right now, if they're not thinking about this seriously right now, it's going to be chaos, bar none. right?
Well,
So
this is
it's
a bit
like,
of a problem,
okay,
isn't it? Because so I'm just going to jump in about the AI problem because
yeah,
obviously Musk and others have been pointing this out for such a long time. We need some sort of
yeah,
guardrails in place to stop this technology getting in the hands of the wrong people, or just some guardrails about how it's going to affect life on Earth. I mean, this could go horribly wrong, but obviously there was no grown-ups in the room in the former White House, was there? That
there
actually
were
took
100%.
seriously the AI danger. It doesn't seem to track well, does it, to imagine that the government is going to come up with some good answers here, because they never seem to be on the ball, do they, enough?
This is why I'm a little bit more optimistic about the time we're in. Not a little bit. I'm a lot more optimistic
Mm,
because that, like that sort of tech bro, like you and I are viewed as tech bros in the United States, right? Or wherever else. We're tech bros. But now the tech bros are becoming much more politically active. And by tech bros becoming much more politically active, there's at least going to be some sort of conversation that says, hey, this is coming.
yeah.
This is
Mm,
coming. Like, what are we doing to ensure that we're setting up the society to be good? As long as they have the society's best interest in mind. You know, the counter arguments will be, well, these people are going to hoard everything to themselves. They're already billionaires. They know how to do that already. So they're going to continue doing that. That's all they know how to do. I'm like, okay, if that's your
mm,
argument, that's your argument. But would you rather have people that know what they're doing being part of the discussion, or would you rather have the status quo, which didn't even know how Facebook worked? Remember
yeah,
that
yeah,
hearing with Musk?
yeah.
Okay,
That's
do we
hilarious.
want to for sure go to hell, or do we want a
Mm,
chance of not going to hell? And I'll take the
yeah,
chance
yeah.
of not going to hell.
I certainly do. Yeah, I certainly do feel like you're on the right path now. You've got some grown-ups in the room who are discussing the serious issues, which is
Yeah.
quite nice. Just hearing David Sachs talk about crypto and things like that the other day on the All In Pod. Just really
Yes.
nice. Let's assume that the robots will be your friends, and it'll be a nice world for us. So
Fingers crossed.
yeah.